The Hinterkaifeck farm murders. Deep in the Bavarian countryside, about an hour north of Munich, stood a lonely farm known as Hinterkaifeck. The land was quiet, isolated, and surrounded by dense forest. It was the kind of place where the wind carried whispers, where shadows stretched long across the fields, and where secrets could bury themselves deep into the soil. And in March of 1922, this peaceful farm became the setting of one of the most disturbing and unsolved massacres in German history. It all began with something small, something easy to dismiss until it was too late. 6 days before the murders, the family's 35-year-old maid abruptly quit. She claimed the house was haunted. She said she heard footsteps in the attic when no one was upstairs. She felt watched. She heard soft knocks. She saw shadows moving where shadows shouldn't be. The family didn't believe her. Or maybe they didn't want to. With the maid gone, the house felt even more isolating. Winter still gripped the farm, and snow blanketed everything. The sky was gray. The forest was silent. Then, on March 30th, the strangeness escalated. Farmer Andreas Gruber discovered fresh footprints in the snow leading from the forest straight to the farm. But here's the detail that still chills investigators a century later. There were no footprints leading back out. Someone walked to the house, but never left. That same night, the family heard footsteps again. They heard creaking in the attic. They found a newspaper on the property that no one recognized, and a set of keys had gone missing. Someone was inside the house. Someone was watching. But the Gruber family stayed. They stayed through the night. They stayed through the sounds. They stayed even after finding footprints that began, but did not end. And the next evening, the killer struck. For days, neighbors noticed the farm looked off. The animals were fed, but no smoke rose from the chimney. The family did not attend church. Mail piled up. A repairman came and went with no answer at the door. Finally, on April 4th, locals decided to check on the Grubers. They stepped into the barn, and what they found became one of Germany's greatest mysteries. Under hay, stacked neatly as if the killer took time to arrange them, lay Andreas Gruber, his wife Kazilia, their daughter Victoria's young daughter Kazilia, their baby Joseph, and the newly hired maid, Maria Baumeister, who had arrived the very day of the massacre. 6 bodies, all killed with blows to the head, all arranged deliberately. The killer had lured the family into the barn one by one, murdering each with a pickaxe-like farm tool. The last victim was the 7-year-old girl, little Kazilia, who survived long enough to pull out her hair in terror before she died. Inside the house, the baby and the maid were killed in their beds. But here is the most disturbing part. Investigators discovered the murderer didn't flee after crime. They stayed for days. They slept in the house. They cooked meals in the kitchen. They fed the animals. Neighbors saw smoke from the chimney. The cattle were groomed. The dog was fed. It was as if the killer moved into the home, living among the bodies while the snow melted outside. But who would do this? And why? Detectives examined dozens of suspects, but none fit the crime perfectly. Some believed the neighbor had long feuded with Andreas. He had the motive, the knowledge of the farm, and the physical strength, but he had an alibi, and no evidence ever tied him to the scene. Others suspected Victoria's lover, who had been forbidden from seeing her. Their relationship was complicated and scandalous in the village, but he didn't match the brutality, and his alibi appeared solid, except nothing was stolen. Money was found untouched. This was not a robbery. Some wondered if the original maid's fears were true. Was someone secretly living in the attic? Investigators found loose hay in the loft, as if someone had been sleeping there. Strange noises, missing keys, unknown footsteps. All details pointed to an intruder who may have stalked the family for days, or even weeks, inside their own home. But no intruder was ever found. There were similar axe murders in Germany and Austria in the following years. Some believe a transient serial killer may have been responsible, but again, no concrete proof. The footprints in the snow, the missing keys, the attic noises. What if the killer had been living there long before the murders? What if the maid wasn't imagining things? What if Andreas Gruber's strange sightings were real? And what if the killer watched the family sleep, move, eat, and live, waiting for the right moment to strike. It is the theory that makes the most sense. It is also the one that keeps people up at night, because the idea of someone hiding in your attic, waiting, is far more terrifying than any ghost. To this day, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Europe's oldest and most baffling unsolved cases. The barn has long been demolished. The land is silent again. But the mystery lingers. The footsteps leading in, none leading out. A killer who stayed after murders. And a family destroyed by someone they never saw coming. Whoever the killer was, he vanished into Bavarian forest and left behind one of the darkest puzzles in true crime history. For more deep-dive true crime stories, investigations, and cold case mysteries, subscribe and step into the grid. Because here on Mystery Grid, every story is a puzzle waiting to be solved.